So, the article that I chose to talk about for this presentation is Trump and the GOP want voters to fear, quote, chaos and anarchy under Biden, but not the virus that's killing 1,100 Americans a day. This article was written in August 29th of 2020 by Eliza Reelman. What is this article about? This news article is talking about the Trump administration and the GOP and spreading the message of violence and anarchy under possibly the Biden administration. Trump told his crowds 4 years ago that he would make America safe again, and he is delivering this message while many people in our country are dying from a virus and at the hands of police brutality. He's basically saying that the violence we're seeing between protesters and counter-protesters in the peak of the George Floyd and Black Lives Matter protests were going to be the norm of the Biden administration. Though the author points out that Trump was helping fuel those fires by villainizing Black Lives Matter and not condemning white supremacists who were there to, quote, counter-protest. Trump is delivering this message of violence and how Biden's America is going to be extremely unsafe. However, it is very clear to many people now that America is not safe for them. This is a photo of one of Trump's rallies. So this is continuing what the article is about. The article is talking about how Trump focuses his idea of safety against Black Lives Matter protests as opposed to the virus that is killing Americans. At the time this article was written, 180,000 Americans had died. The author points out that the entire campaign for the Trump administration, both in 2016 and in 2020, has been built upon fear. That's the first concept I'm going to be talking about, persuasion by fear, and the fear-mongering that the Trump administration has been thriving off of. So, persuasion by fear is persuasive messages that attempt to change people's attitudes by arousing their fear. Knowing about this concept helps to understand the article because it shows why Trump is motivated to push this rhetoric on his followers. In large parts of the Trump 2020 campaign has been to instill fear about the Biden and Harris administration. Throughout the campaign, we have heard many things about the Biden campaign that seem really scary to a lot of people. There were talks about communism, job losses, and about the character of Joe Biden and his family. As in many presidential campaigns, they run ads and talk negatively about the opponent's policies and who they are as people. However, in this recent election, we saw how overblown the attacks on Biden and the administration were. When the Biden campaign said they were going to support a transition to a more eco-friendly United States, Trump told his followers that fracking would be banned and talked about Americans losing their jobs because of radical new pushes in the possible new administration. Trump said in his rallies that Biden was going to destroy the American way of life. Typically, when this type of persuasion is most effective is when there's a solution offered to prevent the feared outcome. In this case, the solution offered was voting for Trump in 2020. The second concept I'm going to be talking about is prejudice. Prejudice is a hostile or negative attitude towards a group of people based on their membership to a certain group. Knowing about this concept is important to better understand the article because of how appealing to people's prejudice Trump was able to win 2016 election and get to the point of running for re-election. If we didn't understand this concept, it'd be hard to understand how we got to a point where a candidate who displays hateful speech to virtually every minority group would be so successful in a presidential race, not in one presidential race, but now two. A part of how the Trump campaign uses the persuasion by fear is they call him prejudices that are already in those who support him. There was a fear of people losing their jobs to immigrants, and there was sexism that contributed to the 2016 win for Trump. And a lot of prejudice is showing in a form of ableism when people think that because Joe Biden has a stutter that he is incompetent to be a president. This is a photo of someone against Trump comparing his alt-right followers to Nazis. The next concept I'm going to be talking about is de-individualization. De-individualization is a characteristic of the individual in a crowd. It is a psychological state of decreased self-evaluation, causing anti-normative and anti-inhibited behavior. At Trump rallies, when his supporters are together and listening to his harmful and divisive speeches, they are more likely to follow and be persuaded by what Trump is saying. During these rallies, people are often following a group norm, which emboldens them afterwards when they leave the rallies and allows the misinformation provided by Trump during those rallies to spread even farther. The next concept I'm going to be talking about is groupthink. This is a photo. So groupthink is the practice of thinking or making decisions as a group in a way that disencourages creativity or individual responsibility. The type of people that Trump surrounds himself with have the traits and characteristics of someone who is more susceptible to groupthink. They tend to be cohesive with each other or isolated from contrary opinions, and they have a directive leader that is one that makes their wants known. It is important to fully understand the Reelman article because it provides context to how we got to this point. It is instances like this where we wonder how such a corrupt world leader who expresses blatant lies about their political opponents got to where they were. And we wonder how it got so bad. But understanding groupthink is really important to contextualize this article and understand how his followers got to this point and how we got to this point where such a tyrannical leader was able to take office.